Britain has escaped more than 200,000 pages of EU bureaucracy and new laws in the last 4 years since Brexit, a bombshell investigation by GBNews has revealed. Since the British public chose to unshackle itself from Brussels, a staggering 4,640 directives, including 200,000 pages of new laws and rulings that EU member states must follow, have been implemented. The paperwork and red tape equates to some 451 miles of paper that, if spread out end to end, would reach from Somerset to Scunthorpe and back again. It comes as Britain marks 4 years since we said a fond farewell to our European friends in one of the most significant moments in British history. The new EU directives include a ruling on gender balance to listed companies that forces businesses to employ people based on their gender rather than their ability and aptitude to do the job. Reacting to the 4th anniversary of the UK's departure from the EU, Secretary of State for Business and Trade Kemi Badenoch said, "In the face of global instability, the headwinds of COVID and Putin's invasion of Ukraine, the UK's economic performance has defied all expectations. When we left the European Union, there were many forecasts of inevitable decline. These have been proved false." Badenoch added, "Since the pandemic, our economy has grown faster than Germany's. Our service exports are at a record high, and the IMF predicts that between 2025 and 2028, the UK will see the 3rd fastest growth in the G7, stronger than France, Germany, Italy and Japan. The UK is capitalising on its hard-won freedoms, but the government is also ensuring Brexit delivers real, tangible benefits for the British people too." Prior to leaving the EU, the Council of Ministers made decisions behind closed doors by majority vote, and without a transcript which affected the UK population. The country is now able to make its own laws in its own sovereign parliament, in accordance with the wishes of its voters. Since leaving the EU, the UK has also been able to chart its own course when it comes to significant legislation, which many argue improves the lives of its populace. One example of this freedom is shown when it comes to the safety of the most vulnerable people in Britain. Britain has had the opportunity to get tough with big tech bosses, and it can now impose penalties as tough as 2 years imprisonment for those that misuse algorithms which can bring about self-harm or suicide, especially in our younger population. However, the EU Digital Services Act does not include those sanctions that deter such action that can prevent the vulnerable from suffering. Brexiteer and founder of the European Research Foundation, Sir Bill Cash, told GB News, "The position is that the regaining of our sovereignty, allowing for current Northern Ireland issues, is a further massive demonstration of the benefits of Brexit." He said, "The EU is in a complete mess. It is currently imposing compulsory quotas and fines on the member states for migrants, and they will likely have to deal with constitutional amendments and referenda which will take forever to deal with. We, on the other hand, have legislation which is made in our own parliament according to our own democratic principles and the wishes of the voters, which may yet be improved by the time it has been enacted." While many Brexiteers would argue that leaving the EU has been a triumph, Remain MPs are not so joyous about the impact leaving the EU has had on the UK economy. Former Shadow Minister and Labour MP for Brent North, Barry Gardiner, told GB News, "I respect the decision of the people to leave the EU and do not propose we should rejoin, even though leaving has had a damaging impact on the UK economy." Other MPs were frustrated by what they believe is a failure on the part of the government to support UK businesses since January 31st, 2020. Chair of the International Select Committee and Labour MP Sarah Champion said, "I'm deeply frustrated that all the promises made over leaving the EU have yet to be delivered. It has become more difficult for businesses to survive, and the choices the government could make to give them a competitive advantage are being ignored."